This officer followed Prince outside of his jurisdiction.
You're not gonna let it. You're
Hmm?
not gonna let anybody else read.
Not today.
All right. I'm sorry.
Read
Wow.
it. Read it.
Read
All right.
it.
This officer followed Prince outside of his jurisdiction through several states on a faulty description of someone who was way off of Prince's features. The man then proceeded to show no badge upon killing him. How can we protect ourselves from such violence? Should we be carrying weapons in case police decide that it is our time to die? Why or why not? Want to stab at that, Kim?
Well, I'm a little torn. I think that we should carry legal firearms and they should be displayed at all times. I think that just like the Black Panther Party, they decided that they would be armed, and as long as the weapon wasn't concealed, it wasn't illegal. And I think that that would create more of a, I don't know what that would do overall, but it worries me that we would all be in this police state and that we would be in some sort of gun violence so much. I would hope that there would be a different answer. But by all means, I think that African Americans should have licensed weapons. And I think that, I don't know, it's just a sad statement when somebody will come over out of their jurisdiction because emotionally they're invested already in taking your life because that's the power that has been given to them somehow.
Right. What you got, Mom?
Ooh, wow.
You got me.
The first thing I thought about when I saw this question was the piece that in today's reading where Coates is talking about police violence. The stories about police violence are always justified by, always begin with what we did wrong, what the black person did wrong. And I'm again thinking about the young lady at Spring Valley High, and I have really divorced myself from most of the commentary that's been going on around that, but some of it has gotten through, and some of it is about you know, not only was she being disrespectful and, you know, whatever,
Right.
but it's that we immediately go to that kind of analysis when something goes on. So, you know, I'm thinking about all the people that have been killed because a cop said he thought he saw a gun.
Right.
And even though, you know, no gun is ever produced, or, you know, sometimes they'll go so far as to plant a gun on you. But that becomes an easy way for the cop to say that he feared for his life and to then justify the lethal force that he used and to then justify the lack of punishment that he's going to receive. You know, in the case of the situation with the young lady at Springfield High in South Carolina, the cop was fired. But, you know, as of right now, as far as I know, he's not facing any charges. So you can bet your bottom dollar that while he was fired from the Springfield police force, he will show up on the police force, you know, of the next town over or the next town over, because he has not been punished and he has not been, you know, given any real indication that he did anything wrong. So I don't know, Dean. I'm really torn with this question. I know that respectability politics doesn't work for us. I know that we can be killed no matter whether or not we have a gun. We can be killed for walking while black, talking while black, laughing while black. You know, it doesn't matter. Um, but it's hard for me to say that I think carrying the weapons and, you know, brandishing them at police would actually help what is already a very bad situation.
I feel the same way that you feel. There's no way to protect ourselves from this violence. Absolutely no way.
Yeah.
I have been put in situations with police, not on my own account, just for being a black woman and breathing. And the cop did not care whether I was a woman or not, and stopped me for no reason. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't, with my child in the car, even if I did have a weapon, would I then want to use it because I have my child in the car? You know, they have no regard for life, so it'd be nothing to put a bullet through my baby's head.
Right.
And say, well, I felt threatened.
Right.
And you know, I pulled my gun out, and the bullet happened to hit the baby in the head. You know, so the whole thing just scares me. It just scares me. However, those who carry weapons, it's okay. But when it comes to police, you're gonna have to use it.
Right.
Or you're gonna be willing. You have to be willing to die, one way or the other. Either you're gonna die from him shooting you, or you're gonna die in prison. But that day, when that comes, you have to be willing to die.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to die. You will have consequences. See, we have consequences, even when it has nothing to do with us.
Right.
You know. But going back to the school incident, which I actually didn't have visions when I was asleep of that. What bothered me more than anything in the world is not only was she abused by this man, if that's what you want to call him. I wouldn't even call him a police officer. But when I looked at the film, on to the right of me, there was a black teacher, male, that was standing there, very tall, very trim, looked to be, I'm sure, over 6 feet tall, that actually stood there and watched this child being thrown around that classroom like a rag doll. I mean, I saw a lot of things wrong with that picture.
Yeah.
And had that had been my son or my husband, my sons and my husband standing there, I can guarantee you, I won't almost guarantee you, there's no way in the world they would have stood there and watched that baby being thrown around that room. So that I had just the biggest, actually I had a bigger problem. I just could not get over the fact that there was a black male teacher standing there watching this.
At the Spring Valley situation, Dean.
Okay.
Yes. Standing there, watching it. Did not intervene, did not say, hold up a minute, hold up.
Right.
We called you down here, if that be the case, to remove her, but we didn't call you to beat her down. He said nothing. He stood there like he was watching a movie.
Yeah.
That's lower than the cop, as far as I'm concerned. That is lower than the police officer that committed that atrocity against that child, to see him stand there and not say a word. So you see, that's another reason why folks feel like they can do anything they want, anytime they want. We have the opportunity to intervene. We stand there like idiots and watch.
Right.
But no one brought that up in the media. Let's just say I read a lot of comments. I didn't hear any black folk bring up anything about this black man standing up there watching this.
You know, I'm over here on my page now looking for a comment that a black man, a friend of mine on Facebook, made that was really good. Toby Sanders. Let me just. He wrote a longer comment, but the piece that he wrote specifically about the black man was this comment. Still, the saddest elements of this story for me is the cowardice and invisibility of the black male teacher who should have been arrested too for interfering with this improper and outrageous assault on his student. I am ashamed as a black man for him and of us who are so frustrated with our children, so exhausted with our duties, and bitter about our lot in life that we are blind and numb to the brutality.
Wait, what exactly happened? I'm sorry.
There was there's a high school in South Carolina called Spring Valley High. And, you know, I don't know all the details. All I know is there's a video that went viral that was taken by some of the students in this high school class that shows a white police officer grabbing a black teenage girl out of her. You know how those seats our chairs are in schools where the seat and the table is connected?
Yes.
He was grabbing her out of one of those desks and very forcefully and literally threw her across the room like a bowling ball.
Really?
Yeah. And
well, even if there was a reason, the optics of that are horrible.
Right.
The optics can't make anybody look good. and it's not even a justification for that type of behavior from a so-called professional.
No.
Can I make a comment? I don't want to put emphasis on white cop. If it had been a black cop, green cop, purple cop,
it wouldn't matter.
A nun,
right,
or anybody else that you stood there and witnessed abusing a child, I would have the same problem. So I don't want to put
but well, no, not to emphasize it, but the facts of the matter in this case is it was a white cop and a black girl and a black teacher.
And many times in the past on the street, I grew up in the city, there has been a black guy on a black child, and black men have stood there and done nothing.
Well, isn't that the point?
I'm just saying that, in this instance, it happened, it was a white cop that did it. But I see a real man.
Right.
Who has any real feelings, that wants to call himself a man, stand there and see a child being abused and do nothing.
Well,
I mean, there's nothing.
Can I say something, Dean?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I mean, one of the points that Coates gets at in his discussion on the killing of Prince Jones is that it happened in a predominantly black county of Maryland. Right. The killer was a black cop, you know, and the politicians who were completely desensitized after the fact were also all black. And really, to me, what he's getting at in that passage, in that section of the book, is the class divide within the black community.
Right.
You know, his whole thing about, you know, being twice as good and half as much, and
Mhm.
you know, he's really trying to deal with the class issue, and you know, and I think that's what happened in that classroom where the teacher and the administrators, you know, could be that insensitive to that child.
Right.
Hmm.
But it also raises a question: are we any safer if we tell our people to be senators or policemen or presidents? Does having black people in positions that are racist or desensitized or with a class system really help us as a people if we are not capable of dealing with those issues anyway? My question was: does it really help us as a as a people to have people in positions of authority if the class system is going to hurt us anyway? Yeah.
Well,
What's the difference?
well, I think that what we have learned is that it doesn't really help. But I think I don't know that we knew that in the 1960s or 1970s when when black people were fighting to get into these various positions, fighting to have an integrated country. But what we now have is hindsight, you know, and hindsight, of course, is always, you know, is often 2020. And I think in hindsight, we can clearly say that it has not been especially helpful to have black faces in high places. Sometimes it has been beneficial, but you can't, it's no guarantee. You can't count on it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Kim?
Well, I think it's very complex, and you know, I think of the Thurgood Marshalls and I think of the Percy Suttons. I don't want to underestimate their contributions to
Right.
all of us. I really think that, you know, there may be some of us who have their internalized racism, what makes them so close that they hate everything and everybody. But I
Mm-hmm.
have to lean towards people like us who would be in positions that we would help everybody, not just African Americans. But I don't think I would lose my humanity as I continue to, you know, be more political or be more in political positions.
Mm-hmm.
I just, when I hear complete statements that generalize and say that it's all of us or none of us,
Right.
those statements I find aren't helpful at all. I think that the goal is to be real brutally honest about the fact that in, let's say, behind the blue wall here in New York City, I
Mm-hmm.
think African American police officers have a decision to make. Are you going to be pro-black or are you going to be pro-blue? And each one of them has to handle that situation individually. So I don't think that it's an all or nothing proposition. But
Right.
I am always disappointed when I see opportunities to help your people where you decided that you want to hide. And then the last thing I'll say is I have been in situations where I had a choice of my life or somebody else's,
Mm-hmm.
and at that second, you just don't know. You just don't know how things can change and how your action can um, just become big and small based on what you did or you did not do at that moment. I don't know. I just know it's a very complex situation, and I want to have an open heart to all the African Americans and all people of color who are so wounded that they would wound themselves. That's my thought.
All right. What you got, Venita?
I think we'll just savor what Kim just said.
All right.
Yeah.